welcome to the MILPA show, our Mother's Day episode, where we're going to be talking about and honoring our MILPA mothers, the hardworking MILPA mothers that we have here today. And if we can go ahead and start with some introductions so we know who we have here today. I'll start with myself. Desiree Rosas here. And we're going to have a question as well. So how many children do you have? Myself, I have one child, but I also feel like I raised other children. I'm the eldest daughter. So I feel like all my siblings are also my little children as well. And yeah, so whoever wants to go ahead and introduce themselves if we want.
Okay, so I am Coronado from, I'm the program leadership assistant at MILPA. I have one son. His name is Aslan Coronado. I'll pass it on to you, Eva.
Eva Castro, Finance and Operations Manager. I have one child. His name is Andres Carrasco.
And my name is Laura Castro, and I'm Eva's mom. I have 6 children, 15 grandkids, and 3 great-grandkids.
Hi, everyone. Veronica Rani Miramontes, and I am operations over at MILPA, and I have 3 kids, ages 3, 5, and 16. I have Mila Cristina, Hetze Milan, and Ailani Maricruz, and I love them to death.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I forgot to mention my son's name. His name is Micah Silva. He's 6 years old. He's the love of my life. So yes, thank you so much, ladies, for being here today. Like I said, we're going to be honoring all of us today. I know a lot of you, or basically all of you, except Laura, are colleagues of mine. So I know that most of you mothers are working mothers. So just thank you so much for doing that for yourselves and for your children. But we can go ahead and get it started with some questions. So I would like to pose the question, what were your expectations of motherhood versus like the reality of what you got, right? For myself, and I'll go ahead and start with answering the questions as well. For me, I thought it was gonna be a lot of, those cute moments, the goo goo gaga, oh, the first steps and all that cute stuff that you see on TV. I think for myself, the reality was, well, man, let me tell you, that reality hit me real hard. I think it started like in the birthing process, and then it just continued from there. Just like it was a lot. Definitely not what I expected. There was a lot of different things that I'd say I kind of knew it was gonna happen just because, like I had mentioned before, I have siblings. I have 3 brothers and 3 sisters. I have one older brother, and I'm the eldest girl. So I kind of feel like I did really know what I was looking at, but it's at the same time, it's kind of like, it's different because with my child, I can't just be like, here, go with your mom or something, go away. You can't do that to your kids. So that was kind of like a shocker for me. And yeah, I think every day is kind of like you get something new, something different. They're constantly growing and learning new things and getting their own personality. So I think every day is something different from what I expected from motherhood. But yes, honestly, with that being said, I can go ahead and pass it to Ronnie.
Thanks, Des. Yeah, expectations versus reality. For me, I mean, I've been a mom, it feels like half my life. I had my daughter right before my 18th birthday. And for me, it was, I felt like I knew what I was going to expect in regards to knowing it was going to be tough. But actually, reality of it too was that I didn't realize how much love, once your child is like entered into this earth and you hold them in your arms, makes you realize the resilience that you could actually push through and make anything happen. So that was huge for me when I had my daughter at a really young age. And now I feel that I feel like I'm starting all over again because I have my 3-year-old, and that's a little different because it's just, I'm in a whole nother place in my life now. So that helps me like identify like what more reality can be like for me now versus back then. So that was something that was important for me, to just to know. And I agree too on the birthing process. I know my first daughter, I mean, I was young, so I didn't want to have any like pain meds or anything like that. And so most of it was pretty easy. There was this one moment, it was called, they said, "Oh yeah." I'm like, "Why does it burn so much?" They're like, "That's the ring of fire, honey." And I'm like, "Oh snap, it is, it is intense." Um, and then with my other two, my son was almost 10 pounds when he was born. He was 9.6, so he was a big boy. And I had to do my epidural because I was having a really hard time. And then my youngest too, she was inverted, so I had like twist her or turn her around in my stomach, which was really scary. So I had an epidural for her too. But yeah, for me, I feel like every child is different. Expectations, realities are so different for each one. And knowing how to move forward is just like you have to live in the moment and decide. And then reaching out to those that you can trust. So like calling my mom and asking her and getting advice from my sisters has been huge. But yeah, I think that would be for me for expectations and reality. I'm gonna pass it over to Ida.
Oh, expectations versus reality. I think society does a great job at painting how motherhood's supposed to look like. Ideally, my pregnancy was not easy since the beginning. So my expectation was more like I'm gonna be super attached to this baby. I'm gonna have the happiest pregnancy. I'm gonna be so organized, I'll be able to take my kid out in and out of the car like nothing, um, just the way society paints motherhood, as a beautiful thing, which it is a beautiful thing, but it also comes with this struggle in a way, like I have to figure out how to do this. I'm a first time mom. Um, so then versus reality, it was just my pregnancies at the beginning, I was going through a whole lot, I had my son. I love birth stories. I made it 8 centimeters without having an epidural. And the only reason why I did is because I had an emergency C-section. It was the super scariest thing ever. Like my baby's heart, he was stressed. It was dropping with every contraction I was having. And I was just like, this is not the way I wanted to have my child. I wanted to have a normal birth. But being the creator, my son was 8 pounds, 7 ounces, 22 inches long. He was a pretty long baby. I can say that I somewhat enjoyed my pregnancy, not as much as I wished I would have enjoyed it. And motherhood is the most amazing, curious, brave, loving experience that could ever happen to you, right? No words can ever describe what parenthood really is. It's laughter, it's joy, and sometimes you're just like overwhelmed with everything. I was like, I just need my time alone. But it's okay to feel this way. It's okay to feel stressed. It's okay to feel overwhelmed. It's kind of start normalizing reality of motherhood, right? It's a whole different picture of what society paints and portrays. So I'll go ahead and pass it on to you, Eva.
Okay, so expectations versus reality. Expectations, I think I was really young and my niece was born. I was 3 years old, and my first niece. And then so I was raised around like the reality of children and the reality of babies. So it wasn't that I didn't know, like, but my expectations for myself as a mother was to be like this all die hard mom, where it was um, strict and clean and very like I guess on top of things, like very on top of things and structured. And having a child, I realized maybe I was really judgmental before on other people's, of people being mothers, of other mothers, and not realizing what it actually takes to be a mom. And just like I had mentioned before, it's like you I felt like when you became a mom that you're just a mom, and you have to hold up yourself and as your reputation of being a mom, and you have to be like a certain way with your children, and no cuss words, no bad food, all kinds of things. And the reality of it is like, you're still a person, you're still human, and I'm still Eva before I'm a mom. And so I had to learn how to relearn myself, basically, like relearn how to be me and be myself while being a mother. And it was like a whole new transition. So that was my reality. And now I'm super laid back with my son, and like we play. I get to be a kid all over again. I get to play all the games again. I get to do everything. I haven't played tag in forever. And so like the rules have changed apparently. And I still beat him, but the rules changed. And so I like the idea and like the concept of being not so strict and not so structured all the time. You know, I get to be fun, and I get to be like playful, and I get to do everything again.
Okay, so I guess it's me now, right? So I was just gonna, I also had my first child in high school. At the end of my junior year, I had my daughter Yolanda, and everything changed. Everything totally changed. I was more, I was trying to go back to high school, you know, during the summer, because she was born in June, the end of the year. And so back when I was going to go back to school in September, I went to my first day of school. And my sister calls me and says, "Hey, you need to come home. The baby won't stop crying." And this is my first day of school. And so I immediately go home and stop going to school from that day on, because I had to prioritize, and I was nursing her, so I was breastfeeding, and so there was no leaving her. And so I stayed home through and took care of her. And I basically cut off all ties to my friends and things, because I was a mom and they didn't understand, you know. They were still partying, and they were still doing all the, you know, all the stuff you do when you're in high school, you know. And so my life totally changed, totally. And each one of my children's births has always been different. Each one of my children, because I have 6, is a different personality, ¿verdad? When I had my daughter Yolanda, I fell in love immediately. Like you say, it's like no other love that you can possibly imagine, right? It's that this came from me, you know, this is mine, you know, and this is something I have to protect, and I have to nurture, and I have to love. And I did. I loved her with all my heart. And each one of my kids, my kids are all 3 years apart. And each one of them, I got to experience them being a baby versus them being a toddler, you know. So each time they became toddlers, you know, here was another one. And so my last one, and the doctor finally told me, "Don't have any more children." I said, "Okay." But my last one, I nursed till she was 3 years old. And so I really kept her a baby for a long time. And then I became a grandmother at the same time I had my 3-year-old. And so being a mom is probably my greatest achievement, because I love them all, you know, and always will. Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to add in that you know, sometimes a good thing about having a baby, having kids, right? Like Eva mentioned, like you get to do fun stuff with them, but also kind of blame things on them, like, oh, he wants to do that, you know, and you get to relive your childhood with them. You know, I know I was limited to my childhood as many of other, you know, indigenous people of color because of the systems and inequalities out there. But you know, being in the foster care system, it kind of made me feel I grew a detachment from a lot of things, right? I grew a detachment from my mom, you know, from that bond. And having my child was just more like, I know I'm supposed to have an attachment to you. And it's growing, you know. So definitely seeing his little phase and just him wild out and just do things, it's just like, okay, we're on the same page now. Do you want to go do this, right? And it's just like, I want to go do it, you know. but we can both go do it together, you know, and jump around and do fun stuff like that. So even though motherhood does have its ups and downs, and it comes with a whole bunch of stuff you have to worry about, it's also good to just sit down and, like Maestra Laura even mentioned, look at them and just be like, wow, you really are mine. You know, like you actually belong to me, you know, for this amount of time, because then you have to branch out and go your own way. But they do definitely grow really quick. And mine's turning 3 in August, and I'm just like, I'm curious to know how he's gonna sound, how he's gonna look, how his character is gonna be. Like, are you gonna give me attitude? Are you gonna be, you know, lovable? Or are you gonna keep squeaking when you're screaming? You know, because he squeaks now when he's trying to scream. But it's like, just the curiosity of just knowing and seeing my little boy grow into a healthy young man, right? That's what we all hope for our kids. So it's definitely having that curiosity when I'm just like, okay, grow up now, you know, turn 10 years old. I want you to turn 10. I want you to turn 15 already. I was like, no, Iram, just enjoy the moment. And I hear that from a lot of moms. They're like, enjoy the time. It's going to go by fast. I'm like, I wanted to go by fast. You know, I want to see him grow. But I just wanted to share that much. I'll go ahead and pass it on to you, Des.
Thank you so much. Yes, definitely loving all the answers. And I feel like there was a lot of intersection when it comes to our expectations and what our reality was, right? I think it was fairly different from what we expected, but it's also like that pros and cons, the good and the bad that comes with parenthood, right? And I feel you, Iram, because me and Micah, we're going to be going to Disneyland, or Micah wants to go to Disneyland. So do I. And it's going to be both of our first time going. So it's going to be awesome. And we get to share those memories. So that's awesome. So yeah, next question that is being posed to everybody is, what is it like being a working mother? Like I had mentioned before in our introduction, I know a lot of you because you're my colleagues, right? So I know that most of us we're working mothers. And so I guess I'll go ahead and start off by just saying, well, for myself, I think this is also something that I didn't really expect. And I was having a conversation with somebody earlier about, like, I think they asked me, like, how would you like to spend your energy today if it were like in monetary value, right? Like, how would you spend your energy today? And I think a lot of my energy goes towards motherhood and being a mother, but also to the work as well. So it's having that balance, right, of what are you going to spend your energy on today? Is it going to be this? Is it going to be negativity? Is it going to be your parenting? Is it going to be your work? And I feel like it's finding that balance that really helps when it comes to being a working mother. And I'll go ahead and just leave it there, and I'll go ahead and pass it to whoever wants to answer. We'll go ahead and give the floor to whoever wants to go.
I can go. So what it's like to being a working mother. For me, I feel like it's all I've ever known since I've had my daughter when I was so young. Yeah, I had like high school jobs. I worked at KFC. I did some hotel cleaning, things like that. But since I left high school, I've always been a mom. So it's just something that I don't know any different. So I know that there's a lot of layers and a lot of balance to it. And there's days where it just seems impossible. Um, so when I finished high school, I went to my junior college and then transferred out here to Monterey. And there's no family out here. I don't know anyone. The only reason I came is my twin sister was here for a little bit, but then she left. And so when I got here, it was just me and then my daughter who was starting kindergarten. So I'm starting like 4-year university. She's starting kindergarten. And it's just us. And having to push through that and make it work, I think if anything made me kind of the person who I am today. And she made me like be strong enough to get through so much that working and being a mom is just all I've known. And now that I have 3, I think it's good that I had the practice because it's a lot. It is a lot, especially now one's in high school and one's like, preschool and one's elementary, and balancing all their needs it's extremely tough. And I think the only way I get through it is when I balance kind of my needs first and knowing that I need to be able to take care of myself in order to be able to take care of them. And I've noticed that I'll compare it. Like there'll be phases or times in my life where I'm so focused on them that I just burn out, and then it does them a disservice. So when I find a way to focus on myself, whether it's exercise, eating healthy, having couples therapy, talking to you girls during, our women's circles, all that allows me to be like the mom that I am. So I think that that's just really important as we balance work and the workload is always taking care of ourselves so we can take care of our kids. And then I'll just leave it open for anyone else that wants to chime in.
Okay. So working mom, for me, sometimes I'd feel guilty because I know even before I had my son, I was a workaholic. Like I would legit like spend my entire days working 12-hour shifts, never say no. I always wanted to be the manager of every store or every place that I worked. And so I would like give it my all, like everything. And so having a son, after that, it was like a total shift. I had actually did my first part-time job, like not working full time and trying to manage having a child. And then I put school and taught into the picture of it, realizing that like it feels like a fail. It feels like failure when I can't do it all. It feels like I can't manage everything. So I've had to learn really quick when having a child that there's like a give and take kind of thing. And sometimes you can do things and sometimes you can't. Like I was going to school full time when I first started, and my son was really small. And he obviously was in childcare and everything. And I was taking a 10-unit math course and then a 3-unit English course. And then I was also taking like a gym course as well. And I was overloaded like with school, and then on top of it trying to drive back and forth to pick my son up. And I would be getting calls from his daycare service, and he had trouble with nap time. And so it was just like a give and take for me. I had to learn how to like let things go and pick things up, and just keep moving, because you can't like, I mean, there's always an accommodation, you have to make when you're a mother or when you decide to be a parent, and a whole lot of responsibility that comes with it. Or, just a parent in general, father or mother, it comes with a big, huge responsibility. Which I'm happy because there's those moments obviously where he's like really, really funny. And so at the give and take moments where I'm like upset and feeling like I failed in something else, he makes me laugh. And then I feel like, all right, okay, it was worth it because he's funny. He acts like me. But yeah.
Thanks. So trying to manage work and be a mom, I think is probably one of the hardest things that you can do, is because of all that guilt, especially when your babies are small. And I had to work when my son, because I didn't start really working until my first son was born, and he was about I say about 3 months old. And I went back to work, and I had to leave him with my husband, who at that time wasn't working. And so he would take him with and hang out with his friends. And I really worried about that, because I didn't know what the heck was going on, And so I know I had to stop nursing him, and he'd have a bottle and stuff. But I always worried, that how is he being taken care of, and who's taking care of him? And most of my kids all had like babysitters. Okay, they had their babysitters. But when my daughter Yolanda, my oldest, became 12, 13 years old, she became the babysitter. And I put a lot of weight on her, because she took care of the kids. And she was that person that learned how to take care of children at a very early age, right? And she was my biggest helper, because her father, was incarcerated for a period of time. And so she was my biggest helper at the time. And it's just really hard when you have to do something like that and put your oldest in charge of your children. And even though you're the one that had them, right? And so, but she's she's a very good manager, that's for sure. And she handled it, you know, and she took care of them really well. I think she even called it, Eva even called her mom for a little while. But it's hard, especially when both people are working and you're the one that has to find the babysitter, even though they're both of your kids, you know, your husband and his kid too, but you're somehow in charge of finding the babysitter when I think it should be both people finding a babysitter. So because we're not, you know, in this alone when we have a husband, we're a partnership. And so, but at the same time, I always took care of it because I didn't trust anybody. And most of the time it was family, you know, my sisters or or a close friend that would watch them. But I didn't have like a daycare for them. So yeah, it was a hard thing to do, to leave your children, you know, when, you know, you want to spend the days with them and be with them and see all those things that they're doing, you know, learning how to walk or the first word, or, you know, just when they got sick, you know, those kind of things that you wanted to be there and couldn't. So I think it was hard, but I, you know, we got through it, you know, and everybody does. So gracias.
Yeah, you know, being a working mom, I'm also a student, so it's something, you know. I think it definitely takes a lot of sacrifice from you being away from your child, you know. Being a single mother, it definitely it's hard, you know. My mom lives in Arizona, you know. Child care can be so expensive. So that's just some things that you have to juggle with, you know. I never envisioned myself not working, maybe because I see my mom being a single mother as well, working from 4 in the morning all the way to 6 to 8 in the morning. You know, she works in the field. So seeing that, I was like, my mom makes a sacrifice for me to have food on the table, for me to have shoes on, you know. And the little time she did have, she was always tired. So now having my son, you know, and being blessed with the job that I do have, is like, okay, I'm working from this time, but I'm definitely going to make some space, some time for my son, for the days that I'm not working. You know, it's your day. You know, I also have Asan's dad is very involved in his life, so we do co-parent very well. And it's I do have that support, you know, that I'm just like, hey, can you please pick him up? Or sometimes I have to pick him up from the childcare, drive from one edge of the town to the other, you know. And it's just like a super stressful because then I have to be in a meeting at this time, and I was like, I'll be 5 minutes late, you know. But being a working mom and also being a student is something that, you know, we're not privileged enough to be stay-at-home moms, you know. And even if I had that privilege, I don't think I want to stay at home. Not because I don't want to take care of my son, because I want my son to know that his mom is trying, that his mom is trying her best to grow, you know, as a mother, as a woman, you know. So it definitely does bring a lot of sacrifice, you know. And I hope he's one day in an understanding child of mine, which I'm hopefully he will be understanding, you know, to be like, you know what, my mom works, my mom went to school, my mom is trying. And I think just even, you know, I always tell my mom, like, thank you. You know, I understand that I didn't get that much time with you because I was also in the foster care system, but my mom was a great mom, but when she had to work. And oftentimes our system does a great job at punishing a single mother, especially women of color, right? Like, oh, well, you're not home at this time, so you're not taking care of your child, so now I'm gonna take them away from you, you know. um so I definitely thank my mom, you know. And to all those mothers out there that don't have support, you know, to all those mothers out there that are working 12-hour shifts, you know, we definitely want to acknowledge you and thank you. You know, thank you for everything that you're doing, everything that you will continue to do just to provide. And even to all those fathers out there as well, and foster parents and so forth.
Thank you so much, everybody. Those were wonderful answers. And there was something that I feel like was said, and a lot of them was just those things that you take from your parents, right? The way that they raised you and how you incorporated that into how you want to raise your children, right? I know that there's, you know, a lot of things that I have incorporated in my parenting that I learned from my uh, people that raised me, because I wasn't raised by my mother, but from the people that did raise me, taking those certain things, but also And this is going to be our next question. So, those things that we don't incorporate into our parents. So the question is, what is something that your parents did when you were a kid that you swore that you wouldn't do yourself? So, and I'll step back for this one and let whoever wants to go ahead and answer this question start off. But yes, what is something that your parents did when you were a kid that you swore you wouldn't do as a parent?
I got it. The chancla. I don't ever, obviously times have developed, and as I was becoming a mother, I had, it came across, the idea of leveling yourself to your child and talking to them about things, talking things through. And so I am very terrible with punishing my son. Um, my like biggest threat to him when he's out of line is like chile or like timeout or not, grounding him from his games or taking things away, which even at that, all I have to do is walk over there and be really stern and tell him that to do something, and most likely he'll listen. I've never had to hit him. I've never had to lay a finger on him because he just listens. Like he gets scared of me just by raising my voice. So I guess I'm blessed in a way, but I also think that it has a lot to do with like communication, and the time spent with him is a little bit different. I only have one son, one child. So a lot of my time when I'm not working or I'm not busy doing something, it does get dedicated to him. I mean, we spend literally every hour of the day together, in most days of the week. And so, yeah, and I get tired of even like doing that much. But I still don't, I try my hardest not to lose my patience and to be very calm and very like playful with him as much as possible, because I want him to listen, and I want him to understand what I'm saying, and I want him to like, you know, just communicate differently than what I was taught.
I think for me, something that my parents didn't do is spend much time with us. I come from a family of 8, but then my mother and father were divorced when I was 8 years old. So then my father had more children, so so we ended up having 13 kids. But my father also was a workaholic, always working. I think the only day he didn't work was on Sunday, and he went to church on that day. And but we didn't get a lot of time, individual time spent with us. And so and my mom and I, we didn't have a really good relationship until probably after I turned 18 years old. But time was a big thing for me. It's like we didn't have that time to talk or to get to know each other or anything. And so that was the thing that I wanted to do with my kids, is really spend time with them, individual time, and give them all, listen to them and just give them the time that they needed, whether it was road trips or whether it was just being at home or something, but we spent time together. I think that's the most important thing that you can give your kid is your time, and your undivided time is what it is. It's that quality time, and just to know and let them know who you are, and that you are a person, right? And it's really important, and that that you can cry and you can laugh and you can play and you can do all those things, and you're not just that work person, And so I did try to do that and spend a lot of time with them. Thank you.
I guess, well, my son is just 2 years old. He's gonna be 3 on August, and I do have a list of things of what my mom did that I'll make sure I don't do. My dad was not involved in my life. So I usually go by, the mistakes that your parents did to you, don't try not to do them to your kids. Don't do them, just try not to do them with your kids. And some things now that I do practice with Aslan is not oppressing his feelings. He is just 2 years old, but he was like, okay, you're crying, And I was like trying to talk to him like he's like, a teenager. Why are you crying? And he tries communicating with me back. I was like, okay, but you have a reason why you're crying, right? Instead of oppressing his feelings and be like, I'm gonna give you a reason to cry or anything like that. I'm just like, oh, let's talk about it. So you just see me sitting down next to a little 2-year-old toddler, and we're just like trying to communicate, So I'm trying to have the open communication with them. Some people's like, dude, he's just 2. I know, but he understands. I'm hoping he's gonna understand soon, And I can say that I at least had those sit down conversations with him. But majority of the time he gets distracted easily. Another thing, yeah, another thing too is just keeping my palabra with my son. If I say we're gonna do something, we're gonna go do it. If it's raining, we'll just wear a rain jacket. You're good. You have some rain boots, just put them on. You're good. Get them all covered up and let's go to the park. So it's just practicing that palabra with him. Like, once again, he's just 2 years old, but I feel like starting them young, and having courageous conversations with them, and even they might not be understanding you, in hopes that they will remember, right? But I'm really looking forward um to him getting older and actually practicing better things, and doing things that learning from the mistakes that my mom once did. Probably wasn't intentional, and trying to be more, trying to be the best I can, right? Try. I think that's a word here, trying. And I'll go ahead and pass it on to you, Veronica.
Thank you. And yeah, I think that's really important to think about too, is that I think a lot of things may not have been intentional, but it's just the way they were raised and brought up and what they knew. That's really important for me to think of as well. In regards to my mom and dad, I feel sometimes a little bit like night and day. So my dad worked a lot. He migrated over here from high school when he was a teenager and met my mom. Um, but he doesn't read or write English or Spanish, so he was just really focused on work and had like not much of communication or relationship with us because he was always busy. And my mom was opposite. She was like so involved in our lives, which was really nice too. But sometimes um, she spoke a lot off the cuff, and I think sometimes she wouldn't realize what she said until she said it, and she spoke a lot from the heart. And sometimes the things are really hurtful, meaning well, but not being intentional about what that statement meant or going further than past just saying the phrase or the words or things like that. So for me, I'm really focused on effective communication, and trying to be mindful about what I bring across to my children. But there are times that I feel like I need to be a little tougher, and so they hear me, they can listen to me. And I don't know if that's right or wrong, but it's just I've noticed that if I'm a little more stern, if I'm a little more forceful, if I'm a little like, hey, I'm really trying to connect with you right now, then they get it, versus me being a little softer on certain things. So for me, yeah, I think it's just communication and thinking about what I'm going to say before I say it.
Awesome. Yes, thank you so much, ladies. I'd say for myself, I think I'm gonna go ahead and kind of just similar to what Iram has said. I think it's because my parents did not raise me, so it's more along the lines of like taking things from what they did and not doing that. um, so basically being there for my child and never giving up, never abandoning him no matter how hard it is, because it gets hard. um and just letting him know like I'm here and I'm always going to be here unless there's other forces that are higher than myself that make it otherwise. But as long as it's in my control and my power, I'm going to be there. And not be like how my parents were, which they were absent parents. So taking that and applying that to my parenthood and just being like, I'm always going to be there for my child, and as much as I can be, however I can be, and do that with the full heart, with the wholeheartedly doing that, right? Um, So yes, thank you so much. There was a lot of valid points in this discussion. I'm so glad that we're having it. But with that being said, and this is kind of similar to what we've already been talking about, and basically kind of like the opposite of what we just asked. So what is something that you've applied to your motherhood that you learned from your mother? And I'd say for me, um, and I'm actually, because I lived with my mother for a good I'd say like a good portion of my childhood before we got taken away. So I'm gonna actually use my mother as an example, and I'm gonna say something that I've applied that she would do is saying I love you every day. I do remember that. And I felt like she meant it when she said it. Parents, they're not perfect, but I feel like that love is genuine and it's always there. And so I remember, and I do that for myself and my son, is just every day letting him know that I love him, and it not being kind of like out of habit, but actually genuinely like in the right moments at the right time. Hey, like I love you, I think it means a lot. And it's just a good way to go about like your day. Sometimes you're having a rough day, and sometimes I don't even have to be the first one to initiate it. My son's we kind of already have this thing going where he'll just randomly be like, Mom, I love you. People think it's so cute, like I'll have friends over or whatever, and he'll just be like, we'll be talking, or he'll just walk by like, Mom, huh, I love you. Oh, okay, I love you too. And so I feel like that's something that I got from my mom that I incorporate into my motherhood. And I'll go ahead and pass it to Iram.
Yeah, one thing is, and it's just something I'm fixing, right? With my mom, it was just more showing affection, right? Like, come here, sit down next to me, I'm gonna hug you. But at a certain time, she'd be like, okay, now get over there. Like, that's enough, right? And I could see that she tried. She tried because she didn't have that. So she would try as much as she could, and then she'd be like, okay, let's get over there. And that would really hurt my feelings. I was just like, okay, And so with my son, it's just like, regardless if my arm is falling asleep, just come here. We're gonna cuddle. He's 2 years old, so it's just like. And another thing too is acknowledging. Say hi and bye, son, anywhere you go, right? And that's another thing to acknowledge. It's the whole affection and acknowledgement, and also sometimes he just looks at me and he's like gives me like a kiss, and he's giving me a kiss because he just puts his face like really close to yours. And I was like, oh, he gave me a besito, but he doesn't even like pucker up his lips. He just like, and I was like, okay, no, that was a kiss for you, and he does that randomly. So I think for one is uh, letting him show affection to me, that cuddly little hug. Sometimes he'll just come to me and just hug me. And I'm just like, well, I wasn't expecting that one. I thought you were going to come over here and kick me and try to play with me, So yeah, right now he's a toddler, so it's just everything's a game. We're just trying to learn as we go. Both of them. He's learning how to express himself. He's learning how to be himself, and I'm learning how to be a mother as we go. So I'll pass it on to Ronnie.
Thank you. For me, it definitely follow through and showing up. So my mom was always, as I mentioned, she was always involved. And when she wanted to do something, she always followed through with it. And she was always there, whether it was our games, um, or just making sure we're being listened to and heard. She was really good at. There was a couple of times I remember I want to say it's because they were working late, but there was a few times where me and my sister had to like walk home because no one showed up to pick us up. So I'm calling that out on here one time. I remember Michael, where is she? And like we had to walk home, but in general, 99.9% of the time, we're all humans. She always followed through and showed up. And I appreciate that about her. And I do that with my kids. I try to sign them up and get involved with as much as things that I can, just so they can be exposed to as much as they can. And that's because of the same thing my mom did for us. And I really appreciate that from her. And showing that love and affection through that means a lot, and something I'm trying to continue on doing.
Two things I picked up from my parents or my mom specifically. One, playfulness, like to be a kid again. You know, my mom's always involved in like sports, and she wants to be super competitive. And so she's like, if we play volleyball, she's going to be out there playing volleyball. And if we play basketball, she's going to be there playing basketball. And so even growing up, my mom would be a kid with us. So that's one thing. And then the second thing is always taking Andres with me when I travel places on road trips for his own experience. So I would travel a lot with my mom growing up. We would always go on road trips together to Nevada or Seattle. We've gone when I was like 11 years old, and just like road trips. And something I know I appreciated a lot growing up is being able to experience like sightseeing. And even if we were in the car just going to a danza or a ceremony, I got to experience a lot of traveling. And so I always want to make sure that Andres does the same thing too. So I try to make it a point every so often to take him somewhere, just like on a mini road trip if we can. I know I did it a lot more before when I wasn't working. I would take him everywhere. I literally would drive around with him like 18 hours, just him and me and him, and just go like cruising. So those are two things I definitely picked up from my mom.
Wow, that's funny because so my mom, she got married when she was 14 years old to my dad, right? And so she had her children one right after the other. By the time she was 24, I mean, she had her sixth child, which is me, right? And so I could still remember her playing jacks with us, hopscotch, baseball, you know, all these things, right? Because she was still that young girl, you know, wanting to. We were basically like her dolls or her toys, because she played with us all the time, right? Whereas my father never did. My father never played a game with us, not one, not even a card game. And so she was very much that person, right, that did all that. And she would also take us on road trips, but not because it was a road trip. But she did teach me nurturing, because she did when we lived together. I mean, back in the days when you first have your she'd iron everything. She'd iron the bra straps, she'd iron everything, you know, everything always was nice and clean and neat, and she'd iron everything. And I remember, that's what I remember most about my mom, is her being that nurturing person that always needed to have her kids clean, always were neat, you know. My hair was always braided, two braids always very tight, right? Always, you know, taken care of like that, you know. But those are the things that I remember with her, you know. And so I try to keep my girls like that, but they were tomboys and they never wanted to be like that, you know. And so those are the, you know, good memories of my mom. You guys were saying how your mom would tell you. I can't remember my mom ever saying she loved me. I can't ever remember it. It was more of a hug or something, but not like te quiero or I love you.
Well, I think that's good. Thank you so much, ladies. But I think maybe Laura, it was the feeling of love that you got more than anything, and that's what's best about it, is that you knew you were loved despite the fact that you didn't hear those words exactly, which is awesome. And I was kind of expecting somebody to say something about food. I was like, well, what about the food? I know that, like, well, I could say for my grandma, which is somebody who I would probably put more in my mother role than anybody in my life. And she would always get down in the kitchen and she makes her homemade tortillas, and you know, so that's something too that I feel like I also kind of incorporate. I don't know if I can make some homemade tortillas. Like, I've tried, but I can't make them like my grandma, and she just has this way about it. But I was kind of expecting somebody to be like, oh yeah, food, but like also maybe just because I'm thinking about food right now. But yes, thank you so much. Okay, yes. So our next question is, when did you know you were ready to have kids, if at all? Because I know it's not always planned, but if you did know, and if not, that you could answer the question like that as well. But so when did you know you were ready to have kids, if at all? And I could go ahead and start. So for myself, like I had mentioned before, I feel like I already was raising kids my whole life. So I gave myself a little space in between to kind of just like have my fun party, like teenage years or whatever. And then I think it was something like inside of me. I don't even know. Is it that like clock, or I don't know what it is really, that goes off in your head or your body that's just like, I have all this love in my body and I need to give it to something, right? Or someone. So I felt like for myself, I think I was like 20 when I got pregnant with my son, and we had been trying for over a year with his father to have a child. So he was a planned child, and I just felt all this love in my heart that I just wanted to give to somebody, and I felt like a baby would be the appropriate person to give that love to. So I'd say like at that moment in my 20s where I was like, I'm done with all that other garbage in life and I want to give all this love to somebody, a baby. I think I had also probably watched like a lot of videos of cute little babies doing cute little things, that baby fever that you get. So I think that was also probably part of it, because I think, I was around, had a lot of women friends, and they were all having kids too. And I'm like, am I missing out on something? This seems like such a great experience, right? To be a mom and give that love. So I think that was it for me when I knew that I was ready to have a kid. And I'll go ahead and pass it to Ronnie.
Thank you. Yeah, for me, um, so with my first marriage for my daughter, it was planned. I mean, I was young, I was a teenager, but we were in the heat of the moment and we talked about it, and that's what we just thinking that we knew what we were doing, we decided to make a baby basically. Um, and so I want to say, like, was I ready and did I know I was ready to have kids? Maybe in that moment I thought I was, but when reality sat on what that actually really meant and looked like for, two young adults that are still trying to figure out life and for themselves, um, then it was more of a like reality check. Like, no, I really wasn't ready, but now I'm here and I need to figure it out. Now I need to be ready. So that was kind of what it was for me. And then my other two kids, I felt like they were less planned than my first one. So with my husband now, yeah, we wasn't like, oh, we're ready to have a baby. No, they just came, and in a way, like, not that I knew they weren't going to come, but it was just different. And that actually I felt more ready with that one than I did my first one. So it's just an interesting question. I think sometimes, definitely things happen for a reason, and we are where we're supposed to be for those reasons. And if anything, I'm just feeling really blessed and fortunate to be able to have all three of them.
I'll go next. I definitely was not anticipating having children. When I had my son, got pregnant with my son, I didn't think I could have children, and I didn't plan to ever even, like, I basically didn't want kids. Like, I did not want kids. I didn't want marriage, and I did not want children. I was living with my ex-boyfriend at the time, and it was just going to school, going to work, and playing video games, party life, like straight, like nothing serious, nothing. It was just fun. And my whole thought process was like, oh, freedom, to do whatever I want all the time. So yeah, it was unexpected for sure. But I was at an age, I think, where the oldest in the family to get pregnant. So I wasn't like ashamed, or I didn't feel like I had to hide it or feel like it was wrong. I felt like it was right, and I actually was excited. After, of course, the initial shock, when I went through the shock, I was excited. I had to go through the shock first, like, oh shoot, I could actually get pregnant. And then after that, it was just accepting it and going through the process, which I had a really difficult time with that after, because then you're like, as you get closer to giving birth, you're like, oh, shoot, like I'm gonna be a mom, I'm like, I didn't want to be a mom, and here I am gonna be a mom. But yeah, then after I had my son, I was like, I want 5 kids. I want so many kids. They're so cool. Like I don't regret it at all.
Okay, so for me was I did not expect to I was in high school. I didn't expect to have a child. I was a really good student. And when I did get pregnant, I was like, oh no, now what? Now what am I gonna do? It was shocking, but we got through it. I prepared through the whole time I was at school. I switched schools. I went to this school called SAM, which is School Age Mothers. And I basically took a lot of classes that pertain to having a baby, learning how to sew and learning how to, just all those things they prepare you for, right, when you're in school. I did take regular classes also, but basically it was learning how to be a mom, and having that counselor there and things like that. But it was basically a shock. And when my baby was born, I was prepared. I was ready. So I overdid a lot of things. Like I over oiled her. I put tons of baby oil on her all the time, which made her break out. I put too much powder on her, which made her get a rash. Let me see. I did so many things to that poor baby in my learning process that and they weren't all good things, like her umbilical cord fell off early and it got a little bit infected, things like that. It was all my learning. So when I had my other kids, all that other stuff, all the other kids didn't have to go through what she went through. She was like the guinea pig of them all. I had to learn everything, all the process with her. And I'm sure the other kids appreciated it a lot. Thanks.
Yeah, I can say that I was not in a good place in my life. And I had my first uh pregnancy, right? And I didn't know how to feel about it. I didn't know what to feel. I felt like definitely like a detachment. I was just like, what am I gonna do? Like, what am I like? I just didn't know, right? And I was just like, okay, well, then I ended up having a miscarriage, and I felt really bad having a miscarriage. And then I had my rainbow baby, which was Asan. At first I didn't want kids either. I was like, I don't think I could have kids because previous trauma. I didn't want kids. For me it was a thing of like, why am I gonna bring a kid to this world if look where I ended up at. I ended up in the foster care. My mom was a good mom. Um, so like I said, my first pregnancy, I was just like, what am I gonna do? Like, what am I gonna expect? I was just like a nervous wreck. I was just like, oh, like, like I was crying, and Aslan's dad was like, it's okay. And I'm like, no, it's not okay, you know? And then I ended up having a miscarriage. And then once again, my rainbow baby. And I was just like, okay, I felt more attached to Aslan's pregnancy. And yeah, I mean, I don't think you'll ever know when you're ready to have a kid. And if there's people out there that know, well, more power to you. I just didn't know what to expect. I know that I knew I wasn't gonna have that much support. Um, so having Aslan, it was definitely a blessing. It was like, okay, I could have kids. I don't think I'm gonna have kids anytime soon. I think I'm sticking with Aslan. It's good enough for now. And yeah, I'll pass it on to you, Des.
Yes, thank you so much, Adam, for bringing up the rainbow baby, because my son is also a rainbow baby. So rainbow baby, for those of you who might not know, is the baby that you conceive right after you have a miscarriage. And miscarriage is something that's probably not really talked about a lot, but it's something that is fairly common um, when you're an expectant mother already, and the complications that come with pregnancy. So thank you so much for mentioning that, and just honoring those babies that didn't get to come and meet us on this earth, but are still there with us in heart and spirit. And I think something that was mentioned as well by Maestra Laura was that, those trial and errors, right? When it comes to like your first baby or your first year with your baby or so on, right? I know, for myself, this is my first and only child. So he is essentially kind of like a guinea pig in a way. Good thing I had my siblings that kind of helped me out when it came to like I had to change a lot of diapers already before I had my son. So I was kind of set on those kind of things, but other things came up that were probably not expected. So this next question is, what was the first year of motherhood like for you, and to share a memory? So for me, my first year of motherhood was very, you know what? I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It was a little bit depressing. I think I suffered with a little bit of postpartum depression. I wasn't really supported at all by like my family, my the father's family, or anybody really. It was just me and my son all the time after I had him, because his father did continue working. He worked in the fields and didn't take any time off. So I was really alone. I felt like I was doing everything on my own. Like I had mentioned, I wasn't really too scared though, because I had already kind of raised kids already and changed a lot of diapers and did a lot of things. But there was some of those questions that come up like, why is the baby making this noise? What is that noise? And it's something like super like, like nothing that's really important, right? They're just making that noise because they're baby noises or something. So I'd say for me, it was really scary. And I was also, like I said, just a little bit of depressing, because I did feel like I suffered a little bit with postpartum depression, which is also something that is fairly common and normal when it comes to giving birth and having children and pregnancy and all that good stuff, right? So for me, I'm just, being transparent and honest. That's how mine was. It was very beautiful as well. Those first moments, like when they could hold the bottle by themselves, like those are all still beautiful moments, despite the depression fog that I had. I still was able to cherish those other types of moments as well. And a memory, share a memory. Hmm. Yeah, I think the memory would just be like me there, like trying to figure it out, trying to balance a bottle and a baby and all this other stuff, and like using my feet and hands and whatever I could, balancing things on my head if I had to, just to get things done, right? I think that's how my first year went. It was just a lot of that kind of chaotic a little bit, but a lot of those cute little moments as well. And I'll go ahead and pass it to whoever wants to go ahead and hop on this question.
I can go ahead and go. For my first year of pregnancy, I was dealing with a whole lot. I was dealing with not having as much support. Aslan's dad was incarcerated throughout my whole pregnancy, and even he was released after Aslan had just turned a year old. So I learned how to do everything by myself. I was dealing with homelessness. I was dealing with not having that support and that stable home. So dealing with all that, and also dealing with like, I don't have childcare. What am I gonna do? Well, I'm gonna take my child to work. And I once again, this Emilpa staff definitely helped me out with Aslan when I didn't have childcare. We will all take turns with Aslan. But it was definitely it was a beautiful struggle. It was something just like, I promise you I'm gonna have a roof over your head, son. And that's what we got. Now I live in an apartment with, it's just me and my son, and it's like, well, no, mommy's not gonna give up here. We're gonna have a house. You and I are gonna own a house. It's just one step at a time. Now he has childcare. His father was released. Like I mentioned before, he is involved in Aslan's life. So I'm definitely blessed that Aslan gets to have two parents that love him, even if it's in separate homes. He gets to have that, something that I didn't have, because my father was not involved in my life. So my first year was was a whole lot. It was a whole lot of baggages, but it was also a blessing because I wasn't going through it alone. Like I went through a lot of stuff throughout my life and childhood alone. I wasn't going through it alone. I have my little crying buddy next to me that was in a in a car seat with me at all times. So definitely seeing that growth. And best memory I could say it's diaper stories. Those are the best ones. I practiced with my nephew prior to Aslan and I put his diaper on backwards, but I was like, I don't know how to put on a diaper. But I did have my aunts that like Mija come stay over at the house. And definitely my mom moved over here to Salinas for a couple months to support me, to help me find a place to live. But those diaper stories will never get old, and I will remember the time that my mom was trying to change Aslan's diaper and Aslan just like right when the diaper came down, she just like exploded in her face. And my mom was just like, please tell me I don't have anything in my mouth. And I was just like, nope, you're good. you know so sharing that memory, and then also just memories of him just laughing. There was times where I was just overwhelmed and I was just crying, like, and he was just look at me and just start laughing. He was just a happy baby at all times, and I needed that laughter. I needed his laughter. um so those are definitely good memories. Of course, of him chewing on things he shouldn't be chewing on. That's another funny stories. Him trying to walk and then just boom, hitting himself in the wall. All those little cute memories, that you just gather and you're just like, one day you're gonna get old, and as much as you're gonna expose me, I'm gonna expose you. And that's one thing as a mom, I'm waiting to see how my son's gonna expose me, because sometimes I hear those kids, well, my mommy does this. And I'm just like, I can't wait till he does expose me. I don't know what he's gonna expose me in, but I'm looking forward to that. But I have definitely had my run back. So just, when he's older, I'm like, remember. But I'll go ahead and pass it on to whoever wants to go next.
I'll go next. But yeah, I really appreciate you saying that, because it really was a beautiful struggle for me as well. And there were those, you had your baby next to you crying, and then you just cried with them because they're just like, we're gonna be in this moment together and let it let it out. But yeah, it was definitely my first year as a mother. There was a struggle because I was trying to balance so many things as still a senior in high school, and take care of Ilani, and that was really hard. Me and her father didn't make it past the first year together. I had a trajectory of where I wanted to go, and if he wasn't, like, if he was holding me back, then I had to just keep going without him, and that's kind of how to paint the picture. That's kind of how it was, and seeing him, like finally like find his own self and discovery now is really nice, and he's always been a part of her life. But I think we both knew if we stuck together, then it would have been more of a disservice to each other and to Ailani than being apart and him find his own way, and me too. That was really difficult because I wasn't expecting to only be married for like 18 plus months, and then filing for divorce, right after my daughter's first birthday. Like that was really, really hard. So it was a struggle, but for me, I think about what pushed me through, what kept me going. I didn't want to take the mother's classes where they'd have you go and be separate from everyone else. I wanted to take the regular classes. So I did that while I was pregnant. And then my senior year, I just ended up doing independent study and going on campus when I needed it. So that helped me through, and I was able to graduate like a 4.0 student. I had a lot of scholarships lined up. I just wanted to keep pushing through, and no one was going to hold me back. And the reason why I pushed through all that was for her. Like, I need to do this for her. And if you don't see that, then basically just move aside, or join the ride. And if you can't, then I have to keep going. That's kind of what it was for me. And it was difficult, but being able to do that for her was really special. And I mean, for memory wise, I want to say it's not when she was one. It was when I was in junior college. She was at the daycare there, and it's pretty much like the fence for the daycare was right next to the soccer field. I was able to play college soccer, so I could be able to practice and look across, and then she could watch me play, or we could see each other. And just thinking of those moments of us like that was really nice to find a way to make it work. And I think a lot of that had to do with my family and my support system. And it made me now, like with the work that we do and the things that I've always been about, is how can I share those resources out to other people? Because there are ways if we can support each other. And so many people don't know so many things that it's unfortunate. So like we have to be able to voice that out and support young mothers saying like it's okay. Because I remember when I did get pregnant, like majority of my teachers and everyone thought, oh, her life's over. She's done. There's nothing else for her. I had one adult on campus come up to me when I had told them that I was pregnant, and their first words were congratulations. That was so huge for me. Like I started crying because everybody else had like such a disappointed face. But that one adult on campus was like, I'm so happy for you. And you need that. You need to hear those things. So I kept those people in my life and try to push everyone else aside that they weren't supportive, weren't going to help me. And I'm proud to say that. I'm proud to say that I was able to, graduate with a high education and move on and go to college and focus on those things, because if I allowed it to get me too much, then it could have been a whole different story. And I guess now I would love to talk to those teachers and have them see me and see where I'm at. I mean, I'm an elected official here. That's pretty cool, right? And anyone can be anything. So I just want people to always know that. And yeah, that's all I'll say.
I'll go next. My first year. Okay, so my first year with Andres as a mother, I had left his dad. And so within like 2 months, I was like, it's not going to work. So I left him and I got to spend so much time with Andres by myself. And I think there's ups and downs, but for me, it was really fun. Like I had so much fun with him. He's a baby, like I would chase him when he started crawling. I used to crawl with him and chase him and tickle him, and just like even like he was so goofy. Like he was really, really goofy. Everything he did was like biting his toes, or like even learning how to like use his tongue like to make funny noises, like fart noises, or like what do they call them, raspberries, even to him laughing when he would like fart or something. And it's just like funny, like the cuteness. And we shared a king size bed, and he would literally roll off the bed all the time. And I don't know how he did it. Like he would roll and roll and roll through the night, and until like I would wake up with a thump and like a baby crying, and I'd be like, oh my God. Just things like that. Like I treasured a lot of him when he was a baby for our first year. I mean, it's not easy, but even before I had him, life was not easy. So it wasn't like it made it any harder. It just made it different. That's all. But for the most part, I had so much fun. My new little partner in crime, and to this day, he's still my partner in crime. Everything we do, when we go places, it's like I'm not mom and son. It's like my little friend, like my little sidekick. And sometimes I wish he would talk to me like I was his mother, but we'll get there. But yeah, it's just a lot of moments, I think, that like you don't like, I don't know. It just, one time I just remember like specifically when he was a really small baby and he was barely learning how to like, I guess, be funny. I tapped on his shoulder and I went like this, psst, and I tapped his shoulder like to get his attention, and he like turned around and he would crack up laughing. And it's like the cutest little thing, like he's so tiny, and yeah, he was just goofy. But those are like my moments.
Wow, it's true. I was there. Let me see. The first year of being a mom, I was afraid most of the time because I didn't want to make mistakes, and I made a ton of mistakes. Right. Let's see. When right after she was born, right after 2 weeks after she was born, my husband Robert went to live at Job Corps in San Jose on 11th Street. You know, they were dorms there and stuff, and so he went to school there so that he could get a trade. You know, he didn't want to go through he wasn't a good high school student, let me tell you. Um, so he went to Job Corps and he left. You know, so basically we were like apart, and we saw each other maybe on a weekend, maybe not, you know. And so I was basically just raising her on my own most of the time, um, and getting up at night, you know, getting up for those feedings all night long, you know, and the diaper changes all night long, and all those things that I never expected that I was going to have to do all by myself. I did by myself. When he finished Job Corps, of course, he came home, and then they started to bond. But before that, they had not bonded the way they should have, right? But that first baby is always that learning experience. As I said, I made lots of mistakes, you know, the oil, the powder, the cord, you know, all that stuff. It was, you know, but the love, I mean, she, like everyone's saying, is just that that time you share with that baby, you know, um, knowing that you're responsible for this baby, knowing that you're the only one that they can depend on. You know, you're the one that's, you know, if you don't feed them, they're not going to eat. If you don't change them, they're not going to get changed by themselves. So they're depending on you fully for everything. And so at 18 years old, I just barely turned 18. And, you know, like Ronnie, I was still, you know, very young. And but it was a very good growing experience for me. You know, it wasn't like I was a little kid, you know, growing up. You know, a lot of my family members thought, oh, you know, it's a baby raising a baby, but it's not a baby raising a baby, because I took care of her. You know, I gave her love and I nourished her, and I you know, learned how to be a mom, you know, because you know, you don't, like everybody says, you don't get a handbook, you know, you don't get, you know, a, an app with this baby, you know, you're going to take care of this baby. Um, and every single one of them after that became easier and easier and easier and easier, and, you know, so thank you.
Thank you all so much. My goodness, those are some wonderful stories. And I think there's some similar stories everybody can share with those like diaper stories and those funny little goofy things that your kids do. Yes, that's wonderful. Thank you all so much. So yeah, with that being said, we can go ahead and move on to our next question, which is, you know, and I just wanted to preface this first and foremost to just mention that, you know, and how it has been mentioned within our conversation of mothers being people too. Like, you're not just a mother, you're a person, you're a human being. And that in that within that human nature, you know, we have our errors and things that we could work on. So I guess that's leading to this next question. So for yourself, and if you can just take the time to just kind of like think about this question, but the question is one thing that you would like to work on as a mother. I feel like there's always room for growth wherever you're at in your motherhood, um, grandparenthood, wherever you're at in life. I think there's always room for growth, whatever it is that you're doing. So just taking that into consideration, you know, when it comes to this next question of like, what is one thing that you would like to work on? And for myself, I think it would be, and I think I got this by just listening to everybody here today. You guys are so awesome. And man, like an inspiration, really, by the way that you guys just carry yourself in your motherhood, right? So for me, it would be being more playful. I think the kind of person that I am, I'm really serious, I'm really logical. So a lot of the times I'm just on this like certain type of mode where playtime is just, I don't think I've ever been able to really be a kid myself. I've always had to be an adult or have this adult role. So I think, and it was really inspiring by what I've heard of just being able to play with them, just being able to like get down with them and be at their level and play. Man, that's something that I missed out on in my childhood. I could definitely use some of that in my adulthood. And it's for both of us, you know, for him to bond with me and me to, you know, get that stuff that I probably didn't get as a child. So I think it is going to be that playfulness, incorporating more playfulness and games and stuff into our relationship. Yeah, and whoever wants to go next.
I got it. When my son is, it's a son, so my thing is incorporating more of him to be, I guess, not so masculine, you know, and not so, I guess, understanding privilege as he gets older, understanding he's a man and he's going to be a man, and whatever route he decides in his life, I want him to always have like respect for women and to be very mindful of how he talks and how he speaks to others. And so I think because I'm such a laid back mom and I'm like very like, oh, like kind of like free and hippie and, you know, very like kind of let him just be kind of wild, that I would like to step in more with more structure and just really having engaged and learning about women empowerment and feminist and being very like aware and enlightened even at his age right now, as young as he is. I want his language to reflect how I am as a mother and just what I believe in and what I stand for, because his father's not really in the picture. He is, but he has brain damage, so he can't really teach him these things. And so I think it becomes more of my responsibility to show him how women should be treated and how he should basically like how he should carry himself, or how I would like to see him carry himself as a man.
So as a grandmother and a mother, you know, I can't say that I've taught my kids everything that they, as far as I could teach them. I do spend lots of time with my daughters. I wish I could spend more time with my sons, but one lives in Kansas and the other one lives over here in Prunedale. But I do spend lots of time with my daughters and their kids. And I've lived with most of my grandkids, you know, I've lived with them and been able to, you know, share lots of space with them on a daily basis. Yeah. And so I think what I just want to do is give them that advice, you know, that advice that maybe they're going to need in the future. Teaching them certain things, right? And teaching them how to be a man or how to be a woman, and just treating them, you know, teaching them how I want to be treated, ¿verdad? And basically most of the time it's respectfully. Yeah? And so if they can treat their grandmother with respect, and they can treat anybody with respect, right? Even themselves. And we have conversations when we go on, I take them on little outings and stuff. When I take them on outings, we have conversations in the car about anything that they want to talk about, because they do have questions, so just being able to answer their questions and being able to really talk to them. I think one of the things that I do a lot to her is that when she was little, she would talk so much, and she would come up to me and just talk like a lot. And most of the time I was going, uh-huh, 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 uh-huh. And so she'd grab my face and turn my face and to look at her, and she'd say, look at me. And she would, don't say uh-huh. So, so it kind of got me like, okay, I'd have to stop what I was doing, whether I was watching TV or talking to somebody else, and just give her the attention that she wanted, you know, or that she demanded, not wanted, she demanded. And I think most of the kids, that's all they want is just that attention. When they're talking, they have something important to say, is just treat them like you would treat anybody else. When you're having a conversation with somebody on the, say you're having a conversation with your child, the phone rings, okay? And you pick it up and you're saying, you know, your conversation with your child does not end there, right? Just because the phone rang and somebody's on the other line. You could either excuse yourself with your child and say, can we continue this later? Or you can tell the person on the phone, you know what, I'm having a conversation right now. Can I call you back? You know, as simple as that. It's teaching them that respect, because they are going to learn that they're important. What they have to say is important to you, and that you're going to give them that time, you know, and whether it's at that moment or just excusing yourself with them and say, can I talk to you in about 5 minutes? I'll be off this call, you know, just the way you would do with an adult, because they are people. And if you don't teach them how to um, get that attention or their conversation, they're going to seek it someplace else. They're going to find it someplace else where you don't want them to be. And you'll lose out on the opportunity of keeping them safe or keeping them with you. Thank you.
I guess one thing that I would like to work on is on my patience. Patience, and I always say this, like, I want to be the best mom that my son needs me to be. Not the best mom that I know I can be, but the one that my son needs me to be. I think each child has their own needs, has their own character, has their own different way of developing. And I might have an idea. Once again, society does it so well, like, you need to be this type of mom. Well, that type of mom, your son might not need that type of mom. So it's like, okay, I want to work on being the mom that my son needs me to be for his own uh well-being and his own developments. As a mother, I think we have a responsibility to teach our child how to respect women and how to be mindful of that, right? I don't Boys are not born with the nurturing gene. They learn that. They learn how to nurture through their moms or through the woman in their lives that are, so we teach them that. So I'm over here trying to teach my son at a very young age, say, hey, little things for him to capture at a very young age, starting them off young, so he could have that teachings, those teachings of how to nurture. Because I do see that a lot of men don't have that nurturing teaching because maybe their moms were busy, or single mothers working full-time jobs, multiple jobs, so it's just being able to be the mom he needs me to be, while also balancing what I need myself to be, as a woman. And yeah, I'll pass it on to you, Ronnie.
Thank you. I was just gonna say everything everyone said. Eva, Maestra, I appreciate what you guys just mentioned, because it was a lot of what I wanted to say too, and it's so important. But I mean, really just picking back off of that is, for me, having to identify my different kids in their own, who they are as individual people. So like, for example, when this day comes, if we go like to a theme park, for example, I know like my youngest is gonna want to get on every ride. And my son, he's a little more like preserved and laid back and like a little fearful on things. So, knowing how to respond to each of them differently is going to be so important. So just practicing that, I think, is really something I want to keep working on and staying mindful of, is that my daughter may need something completely different than what my son needs. And it could be for the exact same situation. So always knowing how to respond to them is something I want to keep working on. And as well as like just finding a way to continue to learn more about my roots and culture and upbringing, and passing that along to them, right? Because a lot of the work that we do is talking about like the next 7 generations and how we can bring these teachings on over to our children and moving that forward. And that's something I want to get better at. And I feel like, what better place to do that than here with everyone that I'm speaking to and seeing right now. And the staff that we have at Milpa is going to allow me to do that. And I feel really honored and blessed to be a part of it. It's so sacred. So it just makes me feel like it's a whole other level of responsibility and a little bit of pressure too, because um, I don't have all that deep rooted cultural background in regards to indigenous practices, more so like maybe Chicano folktale or the ranchero practices that I have, and I want to keep that still alive within me too, and find a way to merge and balance it and make it what's going to be best for my kids, and they can take what they want and leave behind the rest, of course. But hopefully they can take something and continue to pass it on. Won't be my cooking, unfortunately. I can't. I tried. Pretty good at breakfast, but anything else, it's a work in progress. So anyone ever wants to do a cooking class with me, let me know. You to go over there and do it. But yeah, so much that we can do and grow as moms, and I appreciate just having the space to talk about it.
Awesome. Yes, thank you. And thank you all so much for just being so open and honest within this conversation. Um, I know there was a lot of things said, and I definitely agree with plenty of everything, almost pretty much everything that was said here today. I mean, you could take what you want from it and to be able to incorporate it in your life, right? I feel like I'm leaving here today with a lot of different things that I've taken from things that everyone has mentioned here today, especially, taking into consideration that we are teaching the next 7 generations. We are teaching our children who are going to teach their children, and so on and so forth, right? So being very mindful and aware that this is what we're doing as mothers. We're setting this foundation for our children, and whether or not they're gonna, what they do with it, that's on them. But us and our roles as mothers is to be able to at least set that foundation and give them those teachings. So yes, thank you so much, all you, yes, wonderful, hardworking Milpa moms. We only have one more, not question, but this is more like a call to action, or like something that we want to end our episode off with, which is words to your children in the future. So you're just essentially going to be saying, like, talking to your kid in the future, like, hey, this and that, whatever you want to say. And I guess I can go ahead and start off to kind of model it. So this message is for my son Micah and any other future children that I might have. I'm not expecting to have any, and I don't want some. You never know, whatever I'm blessed with, right? So here's my message to Micah and my future children, whoever they may be. Just wanted to let Micah know that I love him so much, and I know that by the time, if this was like a vault, a time vault, and he were to open it, he'd be somebody that's has a good head on his shoulders. And I just want to let him know that I'm very proud of him, no matter where he's at in life and what he's doing. His mother, me, I'm so proud of you, my son, my children. I'm so proud of you. I love you with all my heart. I hope that whatever it is that you want to do in your life, you're on the road or on the path, or at least thinking or trying to start the process of doing whatever it is that you feel you want to do in your life. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Just more than anything, I love you so much, and I will forever love you. And that's my little my little spiel. Whoever wants to go next, I think you wanted to go and go.
Yeah. So something I would tell. So my baby boy, you know, there's gonna be a point in your life, in our lives, where I'm gonna have to let you be, we're on borrowed time. And there's gonna be a point where I'm gonna have to step back, and let you be as a mother, and that's the age where you're gonna be a young adult and an adult. I'm always gonna be here for you to make sure that you stay grounded, to make sure you're being respectful, to make sure you're doing as the best that you can to be yourself and respecting people's boundaries, being the young man, the strong, healthy young man that I know you can be or will be. Just know that I love you. I will always love you. And at one point, there's going to be a time where I'm, life is borrowed time. trying not to depend on others as much, because at the end of the day, you need yourself. Yes, you do need your community and you need your village. Um, but if you don't speak out for yourself, no one else is going to speak as loud as you are for yourself. If you don't take care of yourself, there's nobody else is going to take care of you as much as you are for yourself. You know, step up whenever you need to step up. Make sure you provide space. And the day that I do depart from your life, just know that I'm always going to be very proud of you. Wherever life leads us to, wherever you decide to go, if you decide to have a family or not, I want you to know that your mom fought for you. And that your mom will always love you.
That was so beautiful, Item. My goodness, you got me tearing over here. That was beautiful. Whoever wants to go next.
Um, I'll go next because Eva had to leave. She has a call right now. But I just wanted to say, my children are all grown up, and my grandchildren are pretty much. Tengo unos chiquitos todavía, pero I have a great granddaughter, great grandchildren, and in speaking to them, I just wanted them to know that this world right now that we're in is they're going through a lot of things in our society, ¿verdad? And with people of color. But what I want them to know is that we're trying to make it a better place for them, ¿verdad? We're trying to, as community workers or as grandparents, as just people, we're trying to make it a better place for them and for those other generations, as you spoke of, those 7 generations in the future. Mine have already started, right? I have 2 generations, 3 generations already. And so just wanted to say that as a grandma, as a great grandmother, as a mom, and as a wife, hopefully that they all understand that we as people have tried to change things for them, and that they're loved and they will always be loved. And as you spoke about those 7 generations, I thought about my future great 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 grandchild Julian, or Tomas, or little Laura, or Roberto, those great great grandchildren from the future, that they're thought of now, and that we're going to make changes, positive changes for them. And that's why we fight, and that's why we do things. That's why we have these círculos, and that's why there's MILPA and all those other orgs, and Yoali, because we want to make a different place for those future generations, so that they know that we're thinking about them and their future. Gracias. Mateo.
Everyone's over here making me cry. I don't know if you can see my tears, but they're there. And it means so much just to be surrounded by such strong and amazing mothers, and knowing, I mean, we all work together and we have, we've had some moments where we've been able to bond. So knowing a little extra about each and every one of you and hearing you guys speak and talk, it's really powerful. So it's just an honor to be in this space. My message for my kids, I think each one would be a little different. Because of my teenager, she's 16 and she needs to hear things way different than what my toddlers need to hear right now. But at the end of the day, if it's the future and they're all older, I would just hope that every step that they took and made in their life was something that they had a chance to learn from, and to know that it's okay when mistakes are made, because that's the best chance to grow and build opportunity and to learn from it. And I'm always going to be here for you. I know some days you're not going to want to talk to me or think that, oh, my mom's just lecturing me and she always thinks she knows everything and I know what I need in my life. And those days are okay to feel like that too. And when you do feel like those days, I'm still going to be here. And trust me, sometimes it hurts. I have a teenager and she acts like she doesn't need me for a care in the world sometimes. I know that's just a phase, and it hurts because you think about when they're like so little and tiny, and now that they're an adult and a young adult. I gotta remind her that a young adult still. She um is ready to branch out into her own things, but there's so much she still needs to learn. So I just want her to remember that I'm here to hear her out and support her through that. And for my son as well, I think he's really going to be an amazing young man. He's such a huge empath already. And I just want to nurture that and support that and have him grow that, and don't let anyone else, other men, tell him that's not a man enough to do, because it really is. It's quite the opposite. And to Mila, she's so spunky and full of life. I just want her to keep that going and use all that like pride and energy to shape whatever she wants to have in her life, and to know that it's not always going to be easy, and there's going to be a lot of um, ups and downs in all their lives, but always know that mommy's here and she'll never turn away if they need something from me. But yeah, that's something I would say.
Oh, wow. Yes, this was a very beautiful, touching segment and I think a very good way to end our segment or this episode of the Milpa Show. Thank you so much, ladies, for joining and sticking it through to the end. So with that being said, I just wanted to take a moment to just tell our viewers, thank you so much for watching. If you like this content, you can go ahead and like and subscribe. The Milpa Show, yeah, get it. But with that being said, yes, we can go ahead and just say our goodbyes. Bye, everybody.